For those of you who do not know, we are from the Sikh religion. In the West, they call it Sikh. Specifically, we come from the Jat Sikh tribe, which is a predominantly farming clan known for their hard work, rugged nature, and a jovial, blunt, straightforward disposition. Indeed, a typical stereotype for a Jat is farming, drinking, and fighting. That is more of a generalized, tongue-in-cheek comedy approach towards our people. But for those who really know our people, we are more than just that. A vast majority of our people, in fact, do not adhere to violence, drinking, or fighting. Rather, we are very devout, strict followers of the faith. But going back to this tough persona, it didn't come overnight. Like the land itself, this disposition was cultivated and molded out of necessity from survival over hundreds, maybe thousands of years due to multiple invasions throughout the Northwest Passage into India. Perhaps the very first of these invaders of note was the Aryans from southern Europe and Central Asia over 2,000 years ago. They single-handedly cleared the path by driving the local Dravidian population south, who fled for their lives into what is now modern-day southern India. Those who remained would be incorporated into the DNA mix of that region of Dravidians and Aryans mixed. Along the way came other invading empires, notably the Persian Empire, which is modern-day Iran, invaded at around 500 BC. And then came Alexander the Great from Greece in 325 BC. At around the time of 700, Islam was founded, which would set the stage for further invasions into that Northwest Passage region. Perhaps the most notable of these initial invasions from the new Muslim religion was from Muhammad Ghazni of the Turkish Empire, who reigned terror on that region between 1014 to 1034 AD. Along the way came another notable invasion from the Mongolian Great Empire, the great ruler Genghis Khan in 1221, who wreaked havoc and destruction and pillage in that region. With these invasions, there was another influx, an added influx of genetic diversity into our bloodlines. Then came the Mughals in 1526, descendants of Genghis Khan, who would rule for 330 years. And then another invasion, perhaps the last Muslim invasion of note, were the Afghan Muslims, who invaded for about 20 years, from 1748 to 1767. But the last and perhaps the most consequential of the invaders of India was from not a Muslim nation, but rather a European nation, a very strong one, known as the British Empire. They initially came to India for economic purposes of trade at around 1600 AD. Their point of entry was not through the Northwest Passage of India. Rather, they came through the southern ports of Bombay and Calcutta for seaport trading. Slowly but surely, the British would consume those regions of India as the Mughal Empire, which was once a mighty empire, was in decline. And finally, in 1848, that empire crumbled and the British were ready to take control of the entire land. But the only obstacle that stood in their way was the Punjab region in the northwest. It was pretty much held in power by the mighty Sikh warriors. This would set the stage of the last battle and control of the Punjab region held by the Sikh Empire. It was the Sikhs who declared war on the British in 1848 and embarked this Anglo-Sikh War. As a British historian noted at the time, quote, "Those noble savages fought with ferocity, unseen bravery, like never before," end quote. Shortly after the Sikh defeat, the British were wise to incorporate them into the military ranks as trusted fighters in the name of the British Crown. And with such loyalty, the British gave high ranks to elite Sikh military personnel as officers. But the British not only rewarded the Sikhs through military ranks, they saw that they were also the best farmers in the most fertile region of India, in the Punjab. You understand that the British always had economic aspirations in India and saw this newly annexed Punjab in 1849 as an opportunity to now capitalize and exploit an untapped frontier. This would eventually come into reality 30 years later. Once the British took over, rather than replacing the leftovers from the old ruling Sikh class of elites, the British used them as middlemen or buffer between them, the British, and the local inhabitants. The land was surveyed in western Punjab and established revenue settlement districts to collect taxes. But the finance in new administrations of the province, the local government would need to increase its revenue through farming. This idea would work great for the fertile eastern part of Punjab, but not to the west, where the vast plains of barren, dry land and a sparse population was a bad recipe for generating any income for the crown. The main method was to encourage the commercialization of agriculture with an incentive of individual property rights, which was unheard of and unprecedented at the time in British India, with Ranjit Singh's outdated system of a collective ownership of village communities. Now, any individual living under the British Crown would have more incentive to produce more off of their own land, yet still paying tax tribute to the Crown. Talk about a major incentive, a game changer.